want to discover the flame that hides within you? Do you want to take a journey to discover your authentic self? I am Maria Felachidou, systemic consultant and color psychodynamics practitioner. Together, we will explore ways to discover your inner flame. Welcome. Come, make yourself comfortable. Take a deep breath and relax. This is the second episode of the new series of the Inner Flame podcast based on the fear of rejection. Today's episode is titled, I Belong, Therefore I Exist. Well, you don't have to understand anything right now. You don't have to agree. You don't have to fix anything. Just listen. Before you ever asked, who am I? Your nervous system asked something much more basic. Do I belong? Do I belong here? Do I belong in this family, in this relationship, in this room, in this gaze? Because if I belong, then I exist. And if I don't, something inside me feels threatened. This is where today's journey begins, not with identity, but with belonging. When you were a child, you weren't trying to be authentic. You just were. You were just trying to be safe. A child does not prioritize self-expression. A child prioritizes connection, because without connection, there is no safety. And without safety, our system goes into alarm mode. So, very early in our life, we began to adapt. We learned how to adapt. We observed the room. We read the emotional climate. We sensed what was welcome and what was not. And slowly, subtly, we began to adjust. Not because we are weak, but because we are intelligent. Because belonging is survival. Our species wouldn't have survived if we would go outside into nature filled with predators on our own. We survived because we created groups. We lived inside groups. Bigger families where we could be protected, nurtured, cherished, cared for, fed, getting warm, getting in safety. But somewhere along the line, humans evolved. We don't face these kind of fears, these kind of dangers anymore, but our brain doesn't know that. Because when we are born, we cannot fend for ourselves. We cannot survive. A baby cannot survive outside in the world. It has to be taken care of. So early on, a baby develops strategies to become more pleasant, more likable. It learns how to respond to the signals from its parents. so that the parents may like it, so they may keep it and not throw it away. Well, no parent would do that, but the baby doesn't know that. It has only its instinct of survival. Well, somewhere along the line, somewhere around that story, there happens an adaptation and an archetype is born. The archetype of chameleon. The chameleon is not fake. The chameleon is not manipulative. It's not empty. The chameleon is perceptive, is highly perceptive. It senses shifts in tone, in ambience of the environment. It feels tension before the words are spoken. It knows how to adjust in order to preserve harmony. And this is a gift. The gifts of the chameleon are many. It has adaptation, emotional intelligence, social awareness, bridge building, avoiding conflict, sensitivity. In essence, chameleon helps us, the archetype of chameleon helps us to integrate into new environments, to survive on emotionally unstable systems, to maintain connection, and to avoid rejection. Without this archetype, many of us would not have felt safe growing up, but every gift has a shadow. The problem begins when too much adapting, too much becomes self-erasure. The chameleon changes color to survive, but if the color never returns to its original tone, confusion begins. At first, adaptation is temporary. Then it becomes automatic. And then it becomes identity. You start saying yes before checking inside if you really want to say yes. You understand everyone else's emotions better than your own. You are loved, but you're not fully seen. And this creates a very quiet kind of sadness. Not dramatic, not explosive, just subtle. The sadness of belonging without being visible. The sadness of being included without being known. Many of the people who come to work with me don't say, "No one loves me." They say something more nuanced. I don't know where I end and the other person begins. They don't understand me. They don't know me. We are so many years together and still don't understand me. They feel over-responsible in relationships. They're afraid of disappointing others. They're guilty when they choose themselves. And they get anxious when setting boundaries and exhausted from being the understanding one. But beneath all of that, there is one desire: to belong without disappearing. And this is not selfishness. It is a longing for clean connection. Connection without distortion, without performance, without shrinking. But for this to happen, you have to shed your mask. You have to leave your mask on the shelf and be yourself. Show who you really are. Show your true self. How can you expect others to know you if you never show yourself to them? How can you expect others to understand you if you don't understand yourself? If you have lost yourself? There is a very thin line between a healthy connection with ourselves and self-abandonment. Connection says, I can be here and remain myself, while self-loss says, I must become what you need in order to stay. The difference is not visible from the outside. It is felt in the body. Let me ask you something. When you are in your closest relationship, do you breathe freely or do you hold yourself? Let me tell you something. The body always knows. Let's have a little inner practice now. If you can, if you want, close your eyes for a moment. Bring to mind a relationship where you feel connected. Not the most difficult one, just a present one. Now, gently ask, what part of me shows up here and what part of me stays hidden? Just let the answers emerge. Don't judge them. Don't judge what comes. Just notice. Awareness is the beginning of connecting with yourself, connecting with your inner flame. If you like, write down the answers on your journal, your inner flame journal. Well, to be honest, I don't want you to fight the chameleon inside you. I want you to thank it. It protected you. It helped you survive. It preserved connection when you needed it most. But now, perhaps it is time to teach it something new. That belonging does not require erasure. That love does not demand shrinking. That connection can exist without self-betrayal. Maybe today is not about changing anything. Maybe it is simply about recognizing how early you learned to adjust and gently asking, where do I belong but not fully appear? You deserve relationships where your presence does not cost you yourself. Thank you very much for being here with me on this Inner Flame podcast episode. In our next episode, we will explore something even more specific. That moment when you say yes, not because you want to, but because you are afraid the relationship might disappear if you say no. The episode's title will be When You Say Yes, So the Relationship Won't End. And we will begin to unpack the emotional cost of constant accommodation and how to reclaim your voice without losing connection. Until then, you may follow me on Spotify and YouTube so that you get notified when the next episode is up. You may also follow Inner Flame on Instagram and Facebook. Of course, you're more than welcome. I'll be more than happy to read a direct message from you with your questions and your thoughts. Even I would like to hear your ideas for future episodes. I leave you for today with one final question, because I am like that, A question to yourself, just for the week to ponder. Can I belong without losing myself? Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Inner Flame podcast with systemic consultant and color psychodynamics practitioner Maria Felachidou. Search for this podcast on Spotify and follow Inner Flame on Instagram and Facebook.